Welcome.
Hello and welcome to the Cybersecurity Leadership Series organized by Cyber Houston. We are live and excited to have you join us today. In this series, we highlight our cybersecurity rock stars or masterminds and bring valuable information to you, especially during this unprecedented time. I am Umesh Verma, CEO of Blue Lance and the founder of Cyber Houston. We would like to thank our sponsors, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, Blue Lance, Reneka Digital, and the University of Houston Downtown for underwriting the Cybersecurity Mastermind series. We are happy to answer questions along the way. So if you have a question or comment that pops up anytime during the session, please enter it in the comment section on Facebook or YouTube under the live video, and we will try and get to them. Today's topic is elevating cybersecurity pathways, how to build stronger communities through Confluent STEM-focused academic, business, and governmental channels. We are extremely happy to have two very distinguished guest speakers, Joe and Vic, with us today, here representing the CyberTexas Foundation. Joe Sanchez is an experienced executive in community and military activities involving intelligence, cybersecurity, network operations, cybersecurity education, and legislative matters. He is the founder and executive director of the CyberTexas Foundation, a cybersecurity educational nonprofit providing opportunities for students in cybersecurity and STEM from elementary school to university. A San Antonio social entrepreneur and technology evangelist. Over the past 20 years, Joe established a prominent cybersecurity educational base and promoted the growth of San Antonio's cybersecurity ecosystem. Joe served the US Senate and the House of Representatives as a congressional fellow. In March of 2019, he retired as an Air Force senior civilian from the 25th Air Force after serving 34 years in the fields of cybersecurity, network operations, external affairs, and executive management. We are also joined by Vic Malloy, General Manager, CyberTexas Foundation. Vic has over 20 years of specialized experience as a senior executive leader in IT programs with the Air Force, Department of Defense Major Commands, commercial financial services, and as a civilian defense contractor. Vic has a bachelor's from the University of North Texas and a master's from Webster's University. He had multiple assignments over 13 years working in cyberspace security and operations at multiple network operations and security centers in the United States Air Force. He supported the US Cyber Command and CONUS-based cybersecurity operations, including support to remote piloted combat missions. His last position in the US Air Force was to oversee daily cyber operations, tasked missions within the Air Force Cyberspace Operations Center, which was responsible for the cyber defense of all Air Force networks globally and the employment of cyberspace capabilities globally to support ongoing combat operations. Previously, he served as Chief Information Officer for NSA Central Security Service in Texas. Vic is happily married and has 4 children. He is a native New Yorker and a proud Texan by choice. Vic is active in his church family and annually leads planning activities for the annual San Antonio 9/11 Memorial Site commemoration focused on keeping awareness, vigilance against domestic and international terrorism. His passion is the development of next generation workforce and increasing cyber education in the global community. Welcome to both of you, and we are very, very happy to have such a distinguished pair of gentlemen joining us today.
Thank you.
Well, it is actually, it's a great pleasure to be here. And so, Joe, you know, over the past 2 decades, you've done a lot of work in the San Antonio area, and especially with the University of Texas at San Antonio and STEM-based organizations. You want to give us a little bit of background on that wonderful work that you have done?
Sure. Well, first of all, Umesh, thank you for having us, and thank you to Cyber Houston for this opportunity. To all those listening and watching, I welcome you to what we hope will be some information that you can use and perhaps can build a better partnership between Cyber Houston and CyberTexas. About 20 years ago, while I was an Air Force civilian, I recognized that we didn't have what was then called information security courses at any of our universities. There probably weren't many throughout the United States. But I went to UTSA, University of Texas, San Antonio, and started a relationship with them back in 1999. The next thing you knew, we were building centers and institutes and degrees and programs there within UTSA, which grew into other programs within high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools, which we'll talk about during our presentation. But it's been a wonderful opportunity. I actually was an Air Force civilian, and the Air Force was kind enough to allow me to spend up to 2 days a week at UTSA to help grow their program over the years. And it was a great foundation, a great platform for many other programs to be started here within San Antonio.
And you've been very involved with Greg White also over at UTSA, and you know, he helped start up the DHS ISAL Standards Committee, and you know, so, and I think CyberTexas and Cyber Houston are one of the first ISALs in the state of Texas. So that's been that's a common thread there too.
Yes, it has been, and we work quite often with Greg, and actually, I guess I can humbly say I helped hire him way back in the early 2000s to come over from industry over to UTSA.
Yeah, and Vic, you've had a very distinguished career in the Air Force, and you've done some really neat stuff. Remote piloted combat missions and all the sci-fi things that all of us other people just dream about. What's the one thing that you can share? Something that is really, you know, that not us normal people get to do.
Well, thank you again, Umesh, for the opportunity to be with your audience today. I must say I'm humbled and honored to have served our nation. And what I would share is that your sons and your daughters are extraordinary individuals and human beings who are 24/7 on the wall watching your back and making sure that our nation is defended properly so that, you know, we can enjoy the freedoms that we have. Never in my imagination did I believe that in 1981, graduating out of high school, beginning in programming and basic computer punch cards, that in my career, I would have the opportunity to serve with, you know, such extraordinary human beings and individuals who come together as a team to do offensive, defensive, and intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance on our networks to defend the nation. So what I would tell you is that when we were executing those operations, they never ceased to amaze me that no matter what the challenge was, if there was not a known course of action, they would rapidly come together and find a new creative, innovative way to solve that problem. So that to me is one of the, you know, leading things that has, you know, stuck with me as I've retired and become a gray beard. So I know you probably saw the picture when I didn't have a gray beard, but it's just an honor to have served our nation.
Well, thank you very much. And with all the work that both of you are doing in the San Antonio region and all of Texas, and you're very involved even in Austin with the legislature and the bills in Congress. So today's topic, I think, is very, very cogent and relevant because we're talking about elevating cybersecurity pathways with our younger generation and what that means to our businesses and our nation's security going forward. So with that, Joe, I invite you to start your presentation on elevating cybersecurity pathways.
All right, thank you, Umesh. Okay. Well, we'll get started and talk a little bit about who we are. When we met Umesh last year, as we were preparing for our summit last August, we definitely saw an opportunity to partner. And what I loved in the mission statement of Cyber Houston was the word thrive, and to help businesses thrive. And I think we each do that. You in Cyber Houston, you support the business aspect of this field. We're very much involved in the students. So I'd love to be able to focus on that word thrive together, so that we can each share what we have a very strong capability. And I think we can learn from each other. And then I'd like to be able to learn from what is the environment in Houston, and so you all can learn about the environment here in San Antonio. We also feel that there's something meaningful and result-oriented that I think the two of us can work on as partners. And then I've spoken to Umesh already about finding a way to expand beyond Houston, San Antonio, into other metropolitan areas within the state of Texas. And I look forward to working with Umesh and others on formalizing a partnership and see what we can do in the future. CyberTexas, these are the areas that we focus on. We're out there to try and increase student participation. We want them to be aware of what cybersecurity is, what IT is, what technology, STEM. And we're there to champion any workforce development initiatives. We work with a lot of area groups that are there to grow particular fields. They need individuals to be able to move into certain areas. Cybersecurity is one that our mayor, our county judge, our legislature are very aware of and do see the need to grow that. We want to be able to, we work with area businesses to grow and retain the businesses, make sure they stay here and make sure they have a prosperous environment to grow and do well and to defend our nation. And we're always looking for ways to improve cybersecurity and preparedness. We've been part of some cyber exercises almost 20 years ago, long before we heard of the country of Georgia or any type of infrastructure being hacked. So we've been involved in that for a long time. And we've been doing this for 20 years as an individual, and others. Our nonprofit is 5 years old. So I want to first talk about San Antonio. For those that don't know, the field of businesses and industry, we are the second largest number of information security experts in the US behind Washington, DC. There's a large DoD presence with the National Security Agency, where Vic worked, where I actually spend some time there as well. We have 16th Air Forces, which was formerly the ISR, Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance, combined with now the Cyber Command. And there's other joint forces that are here in San Antonio that both rely on homeland defense as well as information warfare. To help the missions here in San Antonio, many small, large, and medium-sized businesses grew out of people separating or retiring from the military. At Security Hill, where Vic and I once worked, there's a lot of co-opetition here in San Antonio. People are favorable to working together, to helping each other, and lifting what we have here in San Antonio to be able to help others. And there's many platforms for engagement, partnership, and innovation. There's many groups, associations, chamber organizations that hold meetings or have special events to help promote IT, cybersecurity, and STEM programs. We also have what is called the Cyber Innovation and Research Consortium. I founded that about 12 years ago. All the area universities have agreed to come together. It's an informal organization. We meet 2 to 3 times a year, and we, one, get to know each other. Many of these professors, when we first started back in 2007, didn't know each other. Now they know each other. They know the programs. They know the students that they want to build and grow. And they also have opportunities for grant opportunities or to find a way to partner in other means. A bit of history and accomplishments that CyberTexas has done over the years. We helped found the Information Technology and Security Academy which is a dual credit program for juniors and seniors in high school. They go half a day to their regular campus, and the other half day they go to the ITSA. Again, I mentioned the CERC being formed in 2007. Every year we hold the San Antonio Mayor's Cyber Cup Luncheon and College Fair, where over 600 to 700 students come together and actually get to celebrate their participation in CyberPatriot. In 2013, we worked with a high school to start a middle school camp called Cyberplay. And those particular 4-week weekend classes grew into what are now 2 TEA approved cybersecurity classes. One of them being called the Fundamentals of Cybersecurity, and the other is a capstone course that juniors and seniors can take. So those courses grew out of a cyber camp that we held back in 2013. There are a few schools in town that actually provide industry standard certifications through CompTIA. 2 high schools have enabled students to learn and test, and many students have earned Network Plus, Security Plus, CCNA certifications at high school. Some have graduated with 4 certifications. We actually had what we understand was the youngest person to ever earn a Security Plus, who was between his 8th grade and freshman year a few years ago. And we were able to have Bexar County help us pay for the testing for these students who could not afford the test. We also started in 2019 a primary school program with Northside ISD at 13 schools using UTSA's CIAS Cyber Threat Defender card game. So we have 3rd graders and 4th graders who were focused on learning about networks and computers and routers and switches and malware and all the things you could have to then look at cybersecurity. It's a great little program. The students love it. It's a card game. We're also working with the Department of Education at the national level to help increase the number of high school teachers that can teach cybersecurity, which there are not very many. I think we found there was about 20 teachers that are capable of teaching in the high school here in San Antonio, which are not nearly enough. We're also working on a project with some national leaders who are seeking to establish national standards for the high school curriculum. We're very excited about that. That'll take us over into the next year to establish those standards. And we're working with the Department of Labor to establish some apprenticeships here in San Antonio. From here, I'm going to turn it over to Vic and let him talk about our anchor program, CyberPatriot.
Thank you. Once again, CyberPatriot, for those who are not familiar with it, is a program that was established over 13 years ago by the Air Force Association. They started with one state in Florida, and here we are 13 years later, and now we're in every state. We're overseas in DoD schools, and as a center of excellence, the CyberPatriot Program Office recognized the city of Los Angeles first and San Antonio second as a center of excellence because we've established programs that reinforce science, technology, and engineering and mathematics through a competition program to where the students are given a challenge. And in that challenge, they have to act as if they're in a security operations center or they're a chief information officer and secure their networks. So we're not training hackers, but we're training defenders to operate on the network. Our CyberPatriot program in San Antonio has a distinction for over the last 3 years of having the most teams registered. Last year, we had 350 middle school, high school teams with approximately 1,750 students. It is a year-long competitive after-school program, so it complements what you would normally get as if you were enrolled in a computer science program course with network security or in fundamentals of information technology. But it brings together in a application environment the way that you can apply those cyber skills and best practices. We started celebrating and recognizing all teams that participate throughout the year in what we call the San Antonio Mayor's Cyber Cup. So this last year, in February, we were able to get over 700 students together and celebrate and recognize the top 3 teams. And we've got strong support from our foundational sponsors, Booz Allen Hamilton, Secure Logic. There are so many, Boeing, Accenture, Perspecta, but all these people come together and they recognize the need that we need to promote and encourage the growth. We also have outstanding support from the Air Force STEM program, and we recognize and we really appreciate what they've done. About 10 years ago, we had our first national championship, and Joe's going to go over that later to kind of show you the growth of it. But we're so excited that this year, in the midst of all the turmoil that we've been going through, we were able to conduct the first virtual national championship. We thank CIAS and the CyberPatriot Program Office for laboring through and giving the teams that were all nationwide top finalists the ability to compete and do this virtually from home. So here in San Antonio, we brought the national championship back to Roosevelt High School, our junior ROTC team, and they also got the 3rd place team led by a fabulous coach. His name is Josh Beck, and he has set the standard as what a teacher can do with just a little bit of inspiration and heartfelt commitment to making sure that his students not only compete well, but are very competent in understanding what it takes to be a cybersecurity professional. Brandeis High School had the Air Force team, and they were able to compete. So we have the top Air Force ROTC team and the top Army ROTC team, and we're just so proud of these students. Important to note, 2 of our students are now appointees to the Air Force Academy. And it just, as a veteran and as an Air Force veteran, to know that this caliber of students that are coming in to stand watch is just awe-inspiring. And we've been also blessed to have a great group of mentors who come in from the military, from industry as subject matter experts that kind of help fill the gaps so that the students get stuck. We have resources to serve them. We want to make sure that we look, in underserved communities. It is a sad state of affairs that, this ongoing tragedy that we're going through right now globally has highlighted this digital divide, and that there are gaps, significant gaps, to where students don't have Wi-Fi access at home. And so we've overcome that by, promoting that as a challenge that we can accept, and then make sure that we invest and enable them so that they can be much more successful. Here in San Antonio, we're excited to know that VIA, our public transportation system, actually put Wi-Fi access in the communities where they were disadvantaged and not having Wi-Fi access, so that the kids that were at home could gain access to the internet and then operate. While we in CyberTexas weren't directly a part of that, it just kind of goes to show that it does take a community coming together that will, address it. We've got, a very significant Hispanic population here, and we want to make sure that, they're properly represented and properly supported. We also want to dig deeper into our African American communities, and also want to make sure that we want to focus upon getting more females enrolled and interested, and let them know that, hey, look, this is not just a guys only thing, or you don't have what it takes. It's very exciting to see that sometimes, most times, they're more focused and more concentrated, and making sure that they keep the teams on point. These are the roles and sectors that we roll out with regards to the CyberTexas Foundation. We primarily focus on K through 12 and making sure that students, coaches have the infrastructure and access that they need. We make sure that they get mentors. We make sure that the coaches are properly prepared. We've built our website out now with resources so that if you are a new coach, there's manuals there's information, there's videos so that you can begin preparing your teams now. As a matter of fact, for CyberPatriot 13, enrollment started on the 1st of April, and it will go all the way until October when the enrollment cuts off. So you have this entire summer period, to take the challenge on to get your teams formed, start working with the practice images so that you can get a feel and an understanding on where your students are at so that they can be better prepared as the competition starts in the fall, in October, November, and then into December towards semifinals. We have great partnerships with our government partners. They've been very instrumental in funding us and making sure that when there are materials and licenses and resources that are needed for the students, we can enable that access for the students so that it's not a significant challenge to them. We also put on clinics so that if the students are in the middle of competition, outside of the competition window, we can bring in former cyber patriots, we can bring in subject matter experts in the field that can walk the students through step by step as to what it takes in order to be an information security professional and do identity access management, do Cisco network packet tracing, look into the Linux operating system, and understand the command lines that are needed in order to map out networks, and then put in those practices and set those parameters that increases and hardens that operating system so that you're not vulnerable to any kind of external attack or even an internal attack because of improper configurations.
So Vic, we have a great question here, and I want to kind of acknowledge one of our founding members, Phil Beckett, who's the CEO of HASA, and they are the Health Information Exchange headquartered out of San Antonio. And he has also started a cybersecurity group in San Antonio, which I think your organization and his organization could do well with. But, he's on, and he's one of the founding members, so I wanted to kind of recognize him. And then we have another question coming in from YouTube, which says, how can our partners in Houston help enhance the CyberPatriot program in our schools? So is that a question you want to kind of start addressing now, or you want to wait?
Yeah, I'll be happy to address it. And I'd also like to, bring in Joe on this. It really just starts with, that passion of understanding that it is our students, our children. I have a 13-year-old, and, I'm constantly preaching to him. But, it always helps to have a partner in locked arm with you to say, hey, look, here's a resource, here's a game, here's a competition that you and your friends can participate in that will not only build that friendship, but then also build in some skills that will help you as you're going through your academic maturation into undergraduate and then on to a career. While all students that participate in the CyberPatriot program may not become a system administrator or a database administrator or even a secure application developer, we understand that in this space that we're in right now, cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. So even though in October we celebrate National Security Awareness Month, we need more people engaged, especially now that we're working from home and telecommuting and teleworking. You're outside of the bounds of your on-premises security operations center. So you're now having to be more in charge of how you secure your home environment, because there are vulnerabilities that you may not be aware of. So it's important that you stay in tune and linked up with your chief information officer and follow those policies and procedures that they've set forth, like password management. You want to make sure that you're not out there reusing passwords. You want to make sure that your router is properly configured and understand what that router is. So once again, you don't have to be a practitioner in the space, but just have that passion to know that the digital natives of today need the digital immigrants of yesterday to build that bridge and say, here's CyberPatriot, here's a program. There are resources on the website that can guide you through your journey as you are, in this space and operating more succinctly. Joe, do you want to add some more amplification to that?
Sure, thanks, Vic. The key is that many of you all are in the IT or cybersecurity business, and what many of these students need are mentors. And as Vic just alluded to, we need more young women, young men who can serve as a mentor in a school and actually sit side by side eventually or virtually with these students to help them with some very basic information about networks and computers and routers and switches and malware and pen testing and all the other things that you all can share with them. But the key is starting with the Houston ISD or the districts in the surrounding area and talking to STEM counselors, talking to folks who are involved in CATE, the Career and Technology Education side of things. They're the ones who would promote a program such as CyberPatriot. I did a quick look on the CyberPatriot participation list from last year. There were, from what I could tell, there were 40 teams, and maybe a few more from cities that I didn't quite know in the boundaries of Houston, but there were 40 teams in the Houston area. And with as large as Houston is, I believe Houston can grow a few more. So it doesn't take much of a CEO, a CIO, CTO, or any administrator within a company to reach out and work through Cyber Houston or work through other associations in your community that could begin the path to creating programs in the Houston area. It does take a commitment. It does take passion, as Vic alluded to start these things. But once the kids get started in this field, they just want more. And it doesn't hurt, as many of you know, that the unemployment rate in normal times for cybersecurity specialists is pretty much near zero. So there is a career that these students can get into. And the key is just jumping right in and actually starting to work with the schools.
And if you're a parent, ask your, just have that conversation. I mean, you're home now. Did you know about CyberPatriot? Are there any computer science programming courses in your school that you're interested in? And what can I do as a parent to enable you? And I'm sure that the Education Service Center that supports Houston, like we have here in San Antonio, Region 20, has a buffet of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, computer science for all. I know it's been blowing up around the CONUS with regards to promoting computer science, but more specifically, what we with CyberTexas focus on is cybersecurity, because you only have to be right one time as a bad guy in order to cause the mayhem as a result of a breach or a virus that goes wild in your network. But as a practitioner, every day you have to make sure that you're on your guard and increase that awareness. I believe during the RSA conference this year, they talked about the human element. They weren't talking about certifications. They weren't talking about technology. It was just the people, the carbon factor that they want to focus on in the psychology of how we even interact with our information systems. We have to increase that as well as we do on the technology and investment side.
Okay, back over to me. This is a timeline that I wanted to be able how we've progressed over the years. We began this in 2010, 2011 with 21 teams, and you can see the scale going up. The orange that just came in are the different initiatives that we had, such as mentors and the college fair, the Cyber Cup. We had internships at our military organizations that helped win a national championship in CyberPatriot 2. We've had continuous funding, and we've had some internships over the years. The green shows how we have had at least one national finalist, except for 1 year, go to the national finals every year. We had a champion in 11 and 12, and as Vic alluded to just recently, a national champion in 2020. But we've had teams, out of the 6,500 teams that competed this year, only 27 made it to the virtual national finals. So not very many teams get to make it, and yet we have had many teams as finalists in San Antonio. Next, we show the curriculum. I spoke about the middle school camp that moved into the curriculum over the years, and as you can see, we now have the 2 courses that any high school and even middle school could take as an innovative course, as an elective. We've had some grants over the years that have enabled other schools in the area to be able to provide cybersecurity training to schools during the summer. Moving away from CyberPatriot, we're honored to have started the San Antonio Cyber Hall of Honor back in 2016. For those who don't know, much of the Air Force's cyber program, the best among the services, was started here in San Antonio. The 4 men you see in the photo here were a part, the 3 on the left, I should say, were a part of that back in the mid to late 1980s that put together the Air Force program. Every year we recognize the best among the folks over the years who have helped promote cybersecurity, have built initiatives, programs, and have worked in the community. We hope we will have a selection this year, but will not honor them until next year. Vic, over to you.
To wrap up our presentation, and hopefully this has been enlightening and value added to each and every one of you. We are proud to be a part of a partnership with the National Security Collaboration Center, which is home, or it's now resides at the University of Texas in San Antonio. It's very fitting how Taylor Amy, who is the Chancellor and President of the UTSA system, has talked about collaboration, the need for support in research and workforce development and preparedness. Port San Antonio is a community partner that has been very instrumental in the revitalization of Kelly Airfield and now making it a business park. They've been focused on innovation and bringing in industry, small businesses, and making partnerships that will, incubate and grow even larger. We have geeked them. We talked previously about the Center for Infrastructure Assurance and Security, CIAS. They run the engine for the CyberPatriot Program, and they also run the engine for the National Collegiate Competition program that is supported by them and just concluded recently. We've got great partners from industry, IP Secure, Dell Federal. There's too many to even mention, but it is about collaboration. And we were so excited last year during the UTSA downtown campus when we had our summit in 2019 to have Umesh be one of our keynote speakers. And it is that collaboration, it is that partnership that elevates that pathway moving forward, so that we as a nation, we as a state, we as just human beings can be more secure, more protected, and better prepared as we move forward. We want to thank you all for this opportunity. And Joe and I are just excited for an opportunity to share the CyberTexas story, which is your story and our story together, and how we partner together to build a bridge toward the future. And if I may, I'm going to end with the 4 C's that Joe has coined. It is about cybersecurity for capacity, curriculum, clubs, and competition. And that's what we want to build a bridge toward moving forward. So Joe, do you want to talk any more about that?
Well, thank you, Vic. I hope you all have enjoyed the presentation today. If you have any questions, we can certainly answer those. But yes, through capacity in our schools, capacity means the infrastructure as well as teachers. As I mentioned earlier, we don't have enough cybersecurity teachers or teachers who can teach cybersecurity. It is through capacity, curriculum, competitions, and clubs that we want to grow more cybersecurity capability within the schools, which then turns into employees, turns into businesses, turns into workforce development, economic development, and ultimately, as both former Air Force serving individuals in the defense of our nation. So we thank you very much. We hope you have enjoyed the presentation, and we look forward to future partnerships between Cyber Houston and CyberTexas and our respective great cities.
Well, Joe and Vic, this is always a pleasure, and you guys are doing such great work. And, you know, it's all about paying it forward and building that next generation. And, you know, I'm very, very proud to be associated with you guys. You guys are just absolutely top of class. So I want to kind of show in what one of your students has put in, and coming in off of YouTube. It says, growing into cyber as I'm finishing computer engineer school, learning every day. Thank you for bringing me in, finishing at UTSA. You must feel really good about that when you have a student or someone you've helped give you an accolade.
Honestly, like I said, I'm more excited for the next generation. Like I said, when I started my career, we were using punch cards. So when you think about the Vic Commodore 64 and, you know, the Apple IIe, that was my, you know, finished product to start out in this space. And now with Amazon Web Services and cloud computing as it's growing, that's what today's class of 2020 is starting with. So you have, without a doubt, unlimited potential and a dynamic future that we as the digital immigrants are trying to build a bridge toward you so that you can have a smoother pathway and work with industry and make sure that your transition is much smoother.
So I'm sorry, I was having some technical difficulties over here.
No problem.
And so we have another question from Phil Beckett in San Antonio. What challenges have you faced to keep this program successful?
Well, obviously funding is always an issue as a small nonprofit. We've been able to get by. We have some sponsors that have been, we call foundational sponsors, that help us every year. They give us a certain amount of money, and we promote them as foundational sponsors. So funding is number one. I will also say, unfortunately, sometimes the high school counselors may not know about cybersecurity as a career. I hope more and more that is the case. But, and I'm speaking of early days, over the past couple of years, more and more are aware and are starting to help students learn about cybersecurity or think about it in college, or maybe even if they prefer to join the Air Force or any other service, because there's some great capabilities. They will learn an awful lot and they will truly serve their nation. So I think it's awareness, number one. I think maybe people take it too lightly in terms of, oh, the router will take care of my computer or my iPhone. But I think it's a matter of awareness and funding. The other might be the numbers that I've mentioned earlier of teachers. We need more teachers in this field. We need more mentors to help out with the number of people in Houston. I really think that you all can grow a program. As I said, 40 CyberPatriot teams, it's only one factor to look at, but I think there's many more that could be done.
Yeah, I would say a challenge that I've experienced is a lot of coaches come in and they get overwhelmed. And rather than asking for help, I'm guilty of it, they're afraid to ask because they feel insecure and they get discouraged, and then therefore they kind of back away from the program and the opportunity. So what I would encourage the listeners that are watching this now and in replay is to talk to your students, talk to your nephew, talk to your grandkids, and say, hey, look, this is something that you may want to consider. It may work for you, it may not. But what it will do is at least start the conversation about the resources and opportunities that are available to you, and make sure that if you are a coach, if you are a mentor, the kids are watching you, and make sure that you are modeling in a way that inspires them to keep going. Because more often than not, what I found as being a coach starting out, the kids were teaching me. So, here it is. I started with one student, and I'll share, a personal story 10 years ago. He was flunking out of school, and I was overly concerned as to why he was doing this. So we started having a conversation and dialogue. Well, come to find out, he had been programming in Kali Linux on how to do remote access tool development since he was 13 years old. So he was going to class and being bored and not able to go after those things that interest him in information security. And he was going off the beaten path, more focused on his desire to be an information security professional. So what he needed was more guidance, and he needed someone to, kind of encourage him. Okay, you got to stay focused on your academics, but as you're exploring the information security space, there are boundaries. There are ethical issues that you need to be aware of. So where is he at now 10 years from now? He owns his own company. He owns two companies. One company is software development. A second company is information security that he started on the back of a napkin as a result of being at DEF CON last year. So that to me, just underscores that you as a digital immigrant need to be more accountable and more responsible to these young minds that are digital natives, that this is their space. And we need to be more accountable and responsible to give them a hand up and encourage them to keep, staying the course.
Yes, so now we have a question coming in off of YouTube from Roger Kelly. And he says, you shared the most impactful support to a CyberPatriot team is to serve as a mentor. How much commitment is required to be a mentor? What expertise does a mentor need to possess? Can you speak to the mentoring process?
You bet. Well, first of all, they need to register with U.S. Cyber. And then they'll need to register with the school, obviously. But in terms of expertise, they should have some, you don't have to, but some knowledge of certainly IT, some knowledge of networks, Windows Server, Linux, digital forensics are all topics that are covered in the competition. So those are the areas that one would like. There's also a need for somebody to help with the organization, team building, documentation. There's other aspects that one doesn't have to be a technical expert, but can help in support of what a team needs to do. In terms of commitment, it can be anywhere from 1 hour to 2 hours a week. It could be an after-school program. Some go during the lunch hour. It really depends on the school. So the key point is to get with a coach. If you identify a school that you'd like to mentor at, register at uscyberpatriot.org, and then contact the coach, or he or she should contact you, and then you arrange a time frame that fits your schedule, that fits their schedule, when they hold their practices, and then you all will be able to work together. The actual competition starts in the October-November timeframe and goes up until about January. Some mentors work through the summer. Some may be working with teams right now. But for the competition, it's generally about the October, September, maybe when they get started in some practice rounds, through at least January. If they move on to the finals, you could be talking March.
And so we have another founding member of ours, Jesse Correa, who very nicely gave us a thumbs up. And he asks, what skills or resources are needed to start programs like CyberTexas? Well,
from a nonprofit foundation, it certainly takes passion and commitment. It takes good partnerships, a good network of people within your community who have a common desire to move into this field. I found that most of the accomplishments that we have are with the help of people that I knew when I worked at Security Hill for the Air Force. or the people I met at the Chamber of Commerce meetings, or the people I may have met serving on a board of advisors at a local university. Those are the people that you can tap that can help you build a program or a nonprofit if you choose to do one. I think what you have at Cyber Houston could easily be that conduit that could bring together the businesses, the individuals, the small entrepreneurs that are starting their businesses. I should say they're entrepreneurs, not small entrepreneurs, but those small businesses that are starting as entrepreneurships that could come together under Cyber Houston and have an educational program. And that's why when we first met Umesh, the fact that you're so focused on business is fantastic. We don't have that as much here in San Antonio. You all have business, we have education. Let's share that, and together we can grow each other's capability. We'd love to be able to help Houston. This will not be the only session we have. We will someday be able to travel to Houston and watch my beloved Astros as they continue to play and start. But I hope to be able to continue the dialogue so that we can help Houston have more teams, have more teachers, and have more people in the field of IT, STEM, and cybersecurity. And respectfully, also, we'd love to have Umesh and some of you who are listening in or will watch to learn about San Antonio and learn about the businesses that we have here and port what you have done and the type of scanning and the reports and all the things that you offer. I think could really be helpful here in San Antonio. So we each have our strengths, and I think together we can make it even greater.
Right. So, I think you bring up a great point. So one of the things I'd like to bring out is that we actually have started, last year was the first time we started the Cybersecurity Excellence Scholarship Awards. It's a Cyber Houston effort where we give 7 of the area schools $1,000 each. Well, actually, there's a student that one of each of the school presents forward as being their best cybersecurity student. And these are from a couple from the area high schools like Aldine, ISD, and HISD. And actually, we have Eastwood Academy, which was our first pilot program through Cyber Houston. Jason Ritchie over at the Federal Reserve Bank, another founding member of ours, actually brought that whole program forward and integrated it in with some of the Federal Reserve Bank community efforts. And so we helped put an internship and externship programs at Eastwood High School, which is at HISD. And then we also, so they provide, they submit students. Then we also have the 2-year colleges in Lone Star and Houston Community College. And then we have U of H main campus, we have U of H downtown, and we have HBU, Houston Baptist University, as all members of the educational arm. And so of our coalition here in Houston. So they all submit their best students. We give them $1,000 scholarship. It's a big celebration at the end of our Houston Cyber Summit, which we hold once a year. This year it was supposed to be held in April, but we have now got that moved to October. We will keep an eye on how things progress, and if we can open it up, we'll make that decision very shortly in July. And but right now it's set up for October 19th, 20th, and 21st at the George R. Brown Convention Center in Houston. So we still plan on giving away 7. Maybe this year we'll go to 10. So, I mean, there's growth. My goal is to give 100 students $1,000 each, and there are no strings attached. This is about excellence and rewarding them and saying, go have a good time. If you want to go to Hawaii, if it's safe, go there. If you want to buy a laptop, do that. So that's the whole idea. So I think there are things we're already doing in both our communities that could help. And so I think you also had a chart earlier that you had shared with me about all the teams that are in the Houston region that are already CyberPatriot teams. I don't know if you have that chart, and it's easily you can pop it up, but I think that's a good chart to show, because it shows that there's 40-some teams already in the Houston region, right?
Right, Leslie might be able to pop
with
that.
Cypress and with A-Leaf, and I saw others on there.
Yeah, I wasn't able to put that into the presentation. I apologize, but there are 40 individual teams. The schools that you mentioned are in that group. So
I see teams from Austin High School, A-Leaf, Cypress Creek. There are some private schools like Duchenne
Harmony
Academy, Eastwood, Ellington, Harmony Schools, another founding member. Their board member is a founding member of our Cyber Houston effort. Langham Creek, Dobie High School, Maid Creek, and Westbury, Langham. So there are a lot of teams over here. So that means that you've already got some concentrations here.
Most definitely. So what we saw is that you already have a foundation to start with. So I would just build upon that, reach out to the coaches and find out from the existing coaches, what were the shortfalls that they experienced in the last year. And if they want to, we put up our POC slide. They're more than welcome to reach out to us, and we are more than willing to help them, build that database so that they can now establish a CyberTexas chapter for Houston that promotes the CyberPatriot Program, getting more teams enrolled, then getting them the resources so that they can prepare during the exhibition rounds, then getting them prepared for round one. Round one, just so you understand, is 3 virtual machines. 1 machine is in Windows, the second machine is in Linux, and then the third is a Cisco Network Challenge. As a result of being a participant in the CyberPatriot Program, it's important to know that Cisco, as a national sponsor, gives the kids access to Net Academy. And in Net Academy, they build out an environment for the students to learn on a virtual space the command lines that are needed in order to function in Linux, and then also give them the expertise with regards to how to build a router network and then make sure that it's properly configured with packet tracing principles so that they can, build a secure network. So there are a lot of resources out there. We in CyberTexas are here to support you and give you that additional encouragement so that we can build a more secure environment.
Well, thank you so much, Vic and Joe. And I think this is the start. Provided some awesome information. And this, like you said, is the start of the 2 organizations beginning to learn each other and introduce each other to each other's membership and followers. And we're just 2.5 hours down I-10 from you. So, I love your Houston Astros championship banner right there, right behind your, over your left shoulder and your cap. All right. So we got to get the Astros back, and then we got to go take in a joint Cyber Houston, Cyber Texas group of people to maybe an Astros box or something. That would be really cool. So with that,
just make sure you're playing the New York Yankees.
Okay.
I'm a native New Yorker, but I'm a Texan by choice. But I'm still a Yankees fan, so I'm sorry.
So with that, I want to say thank you very, very much for today's presentation. And for our viewers, we will be posting this presentation to the Cyber Houston YouTube channel, as well as the cyberhouston.org website. Cyber Houston is a coalition of volunteer business, cybersecurity, academic, government, and civic leaders. Our goal is to continuously educate and inform business leaders on how to manage and govern cybersecurity risk. We take lessons learned from our enterprise members and distill them down into sensible, economical guidance to help small and mid-sized businesses improve their cyber posture, build resilience, become better and stronger suppliers back to the enterprise. All of this is done through the lens of helping SMBs grow their business. This guidance is put together totally by volunteers. And it comes in the form of the Business Vitality Guide, the guidance for the board of directors, the cyber preparedness assessment, and the free cyber scan. And these resources are made available free of charge and can be found under the resources tab on the cyberhouston.org website. Thank you everyone for joining, and a very special thanks again to our sponsors, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, Blue Lance, Reneka Digital, and the University of Houston Downtown. With that, please remember to join us on Wednesdays from 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Central Time for our Cybersecurity Leadership Series. Be safe, stay healthy, have a great day.